Hi, everyone. It's Katie Crysdale here from Lakeview Aquatic Consultants. Welcome back to the Aquatic Industry Insider. Today, I'm very happy to be joined by Anne Bell from the Aquatic Sport Council. And we're going to be talking about some of the challenges facing aquatic infrastructure in Ontario. And actually, it's a national issue, we can say. Unfortunately, in the last week, we've heard that Acadia University will be closing their pool quite suddenly. So this is impacting all Canadians. So welcome, Anne.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Glad of the interest.
Can you introduce yourself and describe to us what it is that you do and the organization that you represent?
I'm a volunteer and currently the chair of the Aquatic Sport Council Ontario. I've been a volunteer in swimming for a long time, since my children were competitive swimmers, and have sat on the board of Swim Ontario and the board of Swimming Canada. I now work with the Aquatic Sport Council, and we're much broader than swimming. The members of the Aquatic Sport Council are Dive Ontario, Water Polo Ontario, the Ontario Artistic Swimming Organization, Swim Ontario, Life Saving Sport Ontario, and Parks and Rec Ontario. And together we combine our efforts to promote the opportunities for swimming and learning to swim.
I've seen your name in the news a lot recently, your organization. What would you say has brought this to the forefront of public interest recently?
We issued a white paper about a month ago, and I think there's a couple of things. Pools are aging in Ontario. There have been pool closures. Right now, there's a major closure in Sudbury, Ontario, and other pools in schools have been closed or in very poor condition. What the result is that Ontario residents aren't having the opportunity and the benefits of swimming.
It's so interesting and sad in some ways, because I grew up in Ottawa. I went to the University of Toronto. Even at the time that I was there was at that point only two 50-meter pools in the Greater Toronto area. The University of Toronto Athletic Centre was built in 1972. It was aging. Fast forward 15 years, the Pan Am Centre opened, but there continues to be, it's my understanding, there's just not opportunities to get into pools in Toronto. Does that fit your experience?
Absolutely. In the fall of 23, we commissioned a report by Aquatic Associates that looked at a comparison, the situation in Ontario, and a comparison with other provinces. Ontario is way behind the other provinces in terms of 50-meter pools and water available for the various sports. And because of that, our work looks at, because we cross many sports and include Parks and Rec Ontario and Life Saving Society, we look at all the broad needs for the opportunity to use pools. And that certainly includes, most importantly, learn to swim. So we're really concerned about the shortage in available pool space and the waiting lists for individuals that want to learn to swim and the incidence of drowning at the same time. In addition, having the ability to go to a pool if you're a senior or if you have some kind of condition that water therapy is important to, or just to stay active or socializing, all of those need the water space, and we're very short of that water space.
Canada is such a water-focused culture. Lots of different provinces have lakes and rivers, but really providing those indoor aquatic opportunities for people to learn to swim safely in a supervised environment. We've all heard the drumbeat of waiting lists for swim lessons, and that accelerated during the pandemic when there were a lot of closures to aquatic facilities in Canada, a lot of staff who left the profession. But it's been my impression watching the news from afar, because I'm now based in Alberta, that it's really accelerating quite dramatically in the Greater Toronto, Hamilton area.
Because of its population, Toronto certainly, although we've had some new pools recently in the Toronto area, it still falls behind because there's just so many people here. In our report that we had commissioned in 23, we did identify at that point in time where the shortages were. They were definitely, as you described it, in the area around Toronto. Also, the area working north, like the Huronia area, Newmarket, Barrie, all the way to Oakville, Burlington area, and then the Kingston, Ottawa corridor. Those are all communities that could benefit from new pools, and in particular from 50-meter pools. We're really pushing the concept of a 50-meter pool. There's a whole lot of reasons. One is we say double the pool, triple the space. When you have a 50-meter pool, there's so many other configurations that allow your pool to accommodate different groups at the same time. The other reason is a 50-meter pool can serve more than one community. So the opportunity to fund that pool and fund the building of the pool can be regional rather than one little wee municipality trying to figure out how to afford a new pool. And the last thing is, and this has been experienced by the Markham community, the Pan Am Games also resulted in a 50-meter pool in Markham. That organization has been able to get a lot of tourism, a lot of events. Last year, they had something like 73 different events booked in their pool, and they were able to generate revenues from that tourism. So
There's so much that you mentioned that I think a lot of people are not aware of. The tourism draw is definitely something that has always interested me because I think a lot of recreation facilities don't have the staff capacity necessarily to think in that visionary way. But when a municipality in a partnership with a region or neighboring city or province or federal funds or even private sector, it is a big draw. No different from the Taylor Swift effect last year of her concert moving around the world. That's a very easy model that can also occur with water polo competitions, artistic swimming. So in the report that was commissioned, was there any one particular factor that was identified as bringing us to this place, or was it a mixture of factors that need to be resolved going forward for improvements?
So that report really highlighted, as we wanted it to, what the issues were, what the shortage was, what the needs were in the community, who was at risk health-wise and mental health as well as rehabilitation without pools. So having done that study, we then as a group turned around and said, okay, we have to have a vehicle for delivering this message to all the stakeholders, governments, partners, municipalities, and the public. We engaged a government relations organization, Strategy Corps, Inc., to help us develop our message to stakeholders. We issued in January a white paper to government, to the public, to municipalities that describe what the needs are, what the challenges are, and where we see most of the opportunity being. And one of the things that has become very clear to us is that no one organization or municipality can address these issues and make the difference. This is going to require partnerships. Pools are expensive. In order to be affordable, they need to be well built and they need to probably draw from more than one community, be more regional and be more affordable to both in the capital as well as the operating expenses.
I love that you highlight that it's not just the upfront capital, but it's also the operating costs. Speaking as somebody who operated municipal pools for a long time and now works as a consultant with different facilities, there is a big gap in the thinking of what we can spend to build it, but then not find 4 or 5% to operate it annually. Yellowknife is building a brand new aquatic facility. It'll come in at about $80 million. And council last year was quite upset to discover that the operating costs of this facility were not in line with the operating costs of the older facility.
What we are promoting is the concept of the government giving funding support, Ontario government, federal government, it could be both, to organizations that have put a good plan in place. Not to and that includes good operating and pool that's built with very modern attributes that make it more cost effective and that are 50 meters so that they can get a full programming and tourism advantage from that pool.
Talk about how has your white paper been received? What's been the feedback either from swim clubs or local government?
Like yourself, we've had some inquiries. But you can't always get it perfectly right. And when you're dealing with elections and the things that are happening south of the border, you kind of get drowned out. We have a paper that's got a strong message over time. Nothing is going to happen quickly. We have an opportunity with candidates for an Ontario election. We will have a opportunity once there's a new government in place to reapproach and reissue and have conversations. And just recently, The government announced an additional $300 million for municipal recreation projects. Now, those are not necessarily pools. About a year ago, they announced $200 million, and it could be arenas, it could be upgrades, but they've added another $300 million. So what that tells me is that there's a recognition that there's a need and that the Ontario government can play a role in helping municipalities reach it. What we just need to do is to make sure money like that is directed towards aquatics as well.
Your point is entirely valid. There's so many sports that people are passionate about. Hockey, curling, those are just as expensive infrastructure. And so unfortunately, if we don't fight for aquatics, that pot of money can end up going to the more pushy actors in those spaces. Pools are incredible facilities for all ages and all demographics.
Absolutely. Yes. I swim for exercise. It's important to me in my health.
Tell us a little bit about the website and the resources available to groups who may be coming across your organization for the first time and want to use the resources provided to support business cases or council requests in their area.
The Ontario Aquatic Sport Council website has been in place for quite some time, 10 years. So we are in the process of doing a refresh, but on that website, there is the ability to link to us and request a copy of our report. Our report is also posted on each of the aquatic sports websites, Swim Ontario, Artistic Swimming, Dive, and Water Polo. We will respond and give advice and tools about the approach forward. And certainly that approach is going to involve engaging locally with your municipality, not-for-profit organizations in the community like the YMCA, universities. It's going to take those kinds of players together to get something like this going. And of course, we're still working on getting governments involved because that really gives a motivation for partners to come together.
I think that's been the most heartbreaking thing about seeing all of these closures. One organization just can't shoulder the cost anymore. Mm-hmm. And we really do need to break down these silos. The swimming community is completely blindsided, and they would have, had they known, rallied the forces, done fundraising, done a letter campaign. But it's kept so close to the vest until the last possible moment that there's no chance to support it.
Absolutely.
You have a provincial election coming up in Ontario. We may end up having a federal election later this year in Canada. What are some immediate action steps that people can take when they're feeling hopeless about this situation? Because it's so overwhelming.
Well, they can certainly get in touch with us, or they can get the white paper, read it, because it really gives a good outline of the road forward, and share it as much as you can so that a community can come together as a group and start talking about their interests and what their needs are.
And we'll link to all of the organizations that you mentioned in addition to your website and the pertinent documents so they're easy to access. But I would encourage anybody who's watched this recording to reach out to Ann Bell or anybody at Aquatic Sport Council Ontario, because you are the passionate people that we need. The hard part with being a volunteer is when you're good at it, they give you more to do, but your passion definitely shows through. And I think you have such a great grasp of the issues.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thanks for your time today. Appreciate it.